Now it's time to build a base for the TV and combine it with the TV. I can start with two separate objects and just fuse them together using the Combine tool. Create Polygon Primitives Cube once again. Center that more or less. Doesn't need to be very tall. Just create it more or less in place and then go into its inputs right away and set its height to be 0.5 inches. And then we want it to be exactly 0.25 inches above the ground. Tap the space bar and go to the side or front view and verify that. Translate Y 0.25 and it'll be lined up exactly with the ground plane. Translate X, we want to be 0. That'll make it centered left to right here. And then translate Z is just its forward back position. We can check that in the side view too. And then the depth, maybe I'll bring that down, maybe 8 inches or something like that. Okay, so that's pretty much where I want it to be. It needs to have a tower extruded up to connect to the TV. In order to do that, I want to add some divisions here. So I know that I need a square area here that I'm just going to extrude straight up. That means I need to have an edge loop running here, or a series of connected edges. Another edge loop running here, and one here. I can change the subdivisions values to achieve that right away. Subdivisions width set to 3. And subdivisions depth set to 2. And then I can just move these edges around. Right click and go into edge component mode and double click on an edge to select an edge loop or a series of connected edges. And then just push that back. And we can check that in the side view here. Exactly where is that landing? Alright, so I want to have a little bit thicker area there, so that's fine. Right click, go back to object mode, and make whatever final adjustments here. Maybe pull it back. If I want to, I can change its proportions as well, either using the polycube attributes or by just direct manipulation. But once again, I don't want to change the number of divisions at this point. Cool, so I can extrude, right click and go into face component, select that back face there, edit mesh, face, extrude, and then pull it up. Once it's up there, let's get in closer. Tap the space bar. We want to extrude outward here. We'll create an extrusion that has no height, or local translate Z, but has an offset, so it'll sort of sprout straight out from there. Do another extrude, I can use the G key. Scroll down and change the offset. Just select it and middle mouse drag. We want to give a negative offset, and you can see it's extruding straight out there. Great. All right. And we want to select the top face only now. Go into the select tool and click just to make sure you selected only that top face. And do another extrude with the G key. Pull that up. Cool. Check it in the side view here, and what we see is a perfect right angle there. We can move this whole structure forward and back. That's best done using Vertex component mode. So let's do that. We'll do that in the side view here. Right click and choose Vertex, and then select these front vertices, and then Control Shift select these back vertices, but leave the ones in the middle alone. You can see that here. Tap the space bar, maybe press the 4 key, and you can see that those 8 vertices are selected, but the ones in the middle are not. Go back to shaded with the 5 key. Grab the move tool and maybe move those forward a little bit. Once again, check it in the side view. These vertices maybe don't need to be so deep in there. It's okay that there's an overlap here. We don't need to leave a gap. It's okay for that to project a little bit into there. Cool, so we can make our final adjustments to proportions, maybe by selecting these side vertices here. Control Shift, select, and I can scale as long as I'm careful. I'm scaling only in the X-axis here. Sweet. Go back to object mode, right click on object, and I can combine the two pieces together. Doesn't matter what order I select them in. Just select and then shift select. Mesh, combine. And you'll see Polyunite 1 is in the history. After doing a combine, you probably want to delete the history right away. Edit, delete by type history. So now they're one piece. And if I need to make any final adjustments to their basic shape, now's my chance. But I'm going to sign off on this. I'll turn off wireframe unshaded. And the structure is basically done at this point. All the vertices and edges and faces are in the right places. Before I can add materials, I want to straighten out hard and soft edges. Currently, you can see that some of these edges are being drawn as sharp distinctions. You can see them here. And some of them are being sort of softened up. There's a gradient here across these edges. So there are actually edges here, but they're being softened. Let's see how we can control that. This is done through something called Vertex Normals, and that determines how a surface responds to light. In Maya, it's done through the Normals menu accordingly. And you'll see Soften Edge, Harden Edge, and Set Normal Angle. If you click on any one of these three commands, the same node is added. The only difference is one value, which is the angle threshold. So for example, I could select the object and choose Normals, Harden Edge. Click on that. And then when I deselect the object, we can see there are now sharply defined edges here, where previously we had soft edges or gradients. We got hard edges everywhere now. If I select the object, I can go back into the input node here, and you'll see Poly Soft Edge 1. That's the node that controls whether an edge is hard or soft. And it's done through this angle value. The angle is the angle value between adjacent faces or polygons. If the angle is less than this value, then you'll get a soft edge. If the angle is greater than that value, then you'll get a hard edge. And currently, with a value of 0, we will get hard edges everywhere because it's always greater than 0. This is a 90-degree angle here between these two faces. But between these two faces, it's going to be a lot shallower angle, maybe 5 degrees. The greater the angle value, the more of your object is going to get softened. And you can actually see this more clearly if you turn off selection highlighting in the panel. Just briefly, I'm going to go into the panel menu and choose Show Selection Highlighting. Even though the object is currently selected, it's not highlighted with bright green wires. I'll change the angle here, set it to a value of, let's say, 15 and press Enter. And now parts of the model got softened. Increase it more, maybe 30, which is the default. And now you will see more of it's been softened. If I give it a value of 180, then the entire model will be softened. And you'll see very strange things. We get soft edges where we definitely don't want them. Okay. What I recommend is that we start with an angle of 30. That is the default. If you selected the object or components and then chose Normals, Set Normal Angle, this is what you would get by default, is an angle of 30 degrees. And that pretty much works for most things, but I want to have a sharp edge right here. That's the only thing I want here. So I'm going to turn my wireframes back on, Show Selection Highlighting, Select, and these edges right here, I want to make these hard, just around this frame area. Right-click and go into Edge Component mode and select these. Hold down Control-Shift. Just select those 4 edges. And issue another command to add another node. Normals, Harden Edge. And then right-click and go to Object Mode and deselect so you can check your work. Okay, so that's pretty good, but I think I want to make these hard as well. Right-click and choose Edge. Control-Shift to select. Just make sure I get all of those. And once again, Normals, Harden Edge. Once again, right-click in Object Mode and deselect and check it. Okay, so your model may look different than mine. You may need to harden or soften different edges. But just this area is all that you really need to worry about. Everything else is going to be hard edges anyway. Cool, so that's looking pretty good. And now that's a good point once again to select and delete history. and also increment and save. And now we're up to version 4.